Of course, the shift has all been about alternatives. Things like alternative milk, they've been around for 20 years or so, but 2019 has really been about alternative plant-based meat products. Now, globally, meat consumption is still growing. That's thanks to the affluence of countries like China and Brazil. But key on this chart is the purple, dark blue and green lines here. That's the US, Canada and the UK. And you can see either declines or a leveling off of meat consumption. And this is as consumers in those countries and the rest of the developed world say they are cutting back on meat. Now, the business opportunity that this creates is perhaps best evidenced by the dramatic public debut of Beyond Meat. That's the company behind the pea protein burger. It went public on May the 2nd of this year, priced at $25 a share, now trading at $144 a share, but it has surged above $200. Now, as well as being stocked in leading grocery chains in the US, it also supplies the likes of Bear Burger, Carl's Jr. and soon Subway. Its closely held competitor Impossible Foods said at the end of last month that some 10,000 restaurants now offer its plant-based products. Now, of course, this creates a big dilemma for the big meat or traditional meat companies and the big consumer giants. A number of them have said publicly that they want a piece of this pie, this plant-based pie, if you will, that Bloomberg Intelligence says could be worth some $10 billion in the long term. Some of those that have said that they want to be a part of it, Tyson Foods, that's one of the world's biggest traditional meat producers. The CEO saying that people are looking for more protein options and they are the ones who are developing new products to serve them. Also, look at this, the CEO of Nestle, their earnings call just recently saying that they are one of the only companies that has the ambition and perseverance to be major players in this area. David, Alex.
Thank you so much, Bloomberg's Emma Chandra. Well, for more on this consumer shift and how companies are responding, we're going to be joined by Robert Moskow, Credit Suisse packaged foods analyst. So who's winning in the Beyond Meat fight? Who's crushing it, who's not?
Well, it's a very early stage category, and there's two competitors that have developed the technology that have, I think, is much better than what's on the market, and probably will have a long lead for many years. Beyond Meat and Impossible Burger, they're the ones that have figured out a way to weave together the proteins and the fats so that you can replicate the taste, the aroma, and the texture of real burgers. I'm a big consumer of Beyond Meat. A lot of people prefer Impossible, but these two, I think, have a huge head start against these big lumbering food companies that have been very slow to develop those kinds of capabilities. They don't have the R&D technology internally. Beyond spends 15% of its sales on R&D. Kraft, for example, spends less than 1%. And I think that their technology will continue to advance so that bigger companies are going to be chasing what Beyond would call a ghost.
This is the hot new thing, and it's starting from zero, so obviously the delta can be very, very large. Mm-hmm. Will it ever get to be big enough to really transform the food industry?
It's hard to tell whether that, well, it depends what you call transform, okay? I think that this could be a $30 billion category in the fullness of time. And that's in the context of a $270 billion meat business. Mm-hmm. It's about 13% of the meat industry would be similar to what plant-based milks have done in the milk category. Even if we're half wrong and it's only 7 or 8% of the category, that's still an enormous category for Beyond and Impossible. And if they truly are the two leaders, you can see why the stock prices are so high.
So what do the traditional companies do? Do they need to do more R&D? Do they go buy small tech companies? Do they refocus their efforts? Do they go look for something else that's not a Beyond Meat and some totally new different product and get ahead of that?
You know what all these big companies have done is that they've recognized that their expertise is going to be in distribution and scale. It's not going to be in the early stage development of new technology. So most likely they're going to have to buy small companies like these.
As in they buy a Beyond Meat?
I think so, yeah. I don't know when Beyond Meat will ever be for sale, but that's most likely what I think will happen. I mean, Tyson's developed its own product, but I think it's going to be kind of narrow. I think it's going to be focused on chicken nuggets, and we'll see how successful it will be. I think that'll be the strategy.